Hello, Dental A Team listeners. This is your host, Kiera Dent. And as always, I wanted to just send out a thank you to all of you who have made the Dental A Team podcast a success. You are the ones who listen, who download, who subscribe, who leave us reviews, who leave us those 5 stars that really help us get noticed within the dental world. We decided that at the Dental A Team, we wanted to create a space to level up, to take people from where they are and make them part of the A Team. So we deliver content to all team members of every single position to help you become a better version of yourself. So at this time, we are new. We're growing. And just like all of you in your dental offices, you're trying to grow your practices as well. So if the Dental A Team has been your favorite podcast, you've gained something from it, you love it, you share it with your friends, you share it with your colleagues, please do us a huge favor and help us become part of the movement to make the Dental A Team the top team training podcast out there. So share it with your friends. Ask your friends to subscribe. If you love it, share it. I firmly believe that the best way that we can level up and positively impact the world of dental is by sharing the best of the best practices. And hopefully we're doing that on the Dental A Team podcast for you. So please help and join me. Let's make a movement. Let's make a change. And let's help team members become the better version of themselves by sharing and having others subscribe to our Dental A Team podcast. Thank you all so much for joining me on this journey of the Dental A Team podcast. I hope you continue to enjoy the content that we produce. And as always, please give us your feedback. Thank you so much for being a part of my Dental A Team family. Hey everyone, welcome to the Dental A Team podcast. We're your hosts, Kiera Dent
and Dr. Mark Costas.
Mark and I had this crazy idea that maybe we could combine a dentist and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. And Dental A Team podcast was created.
I'm a practicing dentist, a multiple practice owner, a dental performance coach, and the founder of the Dental Success Institute.
I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, current practice owner, and international dental consultant. Mark and I don't just understand you, we are you.
Our goal is to positively impact the world of dentistry by sharing our lessons learned from the road in hundreds of dental offices.
2 perspectives, 1 mission, to help dental professionals reach their full potential. Welcome to the Dental A Team podcast. Hello, Dental A Team. This is Kiera Dent, and I am excited. It's been a while since I've recorded some podcasts, and this morning I have an incredible friend. We actually met on the DTSN network. So that is the Dental Team Success Network, and she has been a part of that for the last year. She was a brand new office manager when I met her. She is vibrant. She loves to ask a ton of questions. Her name is Ashley Keith from Kansas City. And Ashley, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
So good. I think you have one of the most incredible stories. You come from not a huge dental background, and then you're crushing it in this massive office that you run. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, thanks first off for having me on today.
Of course.
So my background, I come from healthcare IT sales. So I did that for about 10 years before moving into dental. And my husband and I, we just kind of got to the point where in our office, we realized, hey, we're growing and we need somebody to manage this. And Bill was like, hey, like, why don't you give it a go? If you don't like it, then you can go, back to sales and just see if you like it. And so I jumped right in. And you know what? It was good having corporate sales background. I also worked in HR and marketing, my degrees in marketing. And so it's sort of been nice to be able to wear all my hats again and be in the office and learn a new industry. But Bill and I are both born and raised in Kansas City, and that's part of our story with the office. And you know what? We just really love the city and the people and the community that we serve.
That's awesome. And was it scary because your husband's a dentist? He's the dentist. That's where you work, right? That's your guys' practice. And it's always one of those things when I watch couples do this, because I see this a lot when I consult. I'll see that, there was a dentist who decides to get clever and have their spouse come in to save on payroll, or they think it would be great. And then I watch and I'm always curious how that impacts your marriage and your personal life, because a lot of spouses like to have separate individual lives and then they tend to always merge together. And so I was super curious, like, how did that impact your marriage? How was that for your life? Do you feel like you see each other all the time? Was it an awesome win? Was it, oh my gosh, we need separate offices? How does that work being married and coming into this?
Yeah. So, okay, we started to plan out a building move or an office move. And we were working with one of our mentors, and she's the one that recommended, like, hey, Ashley, like, you actually have a pretty good perception for like patient experience and marketing. And I've always kind of been in Bill's ear about that, just, as a spouse on the sideline. And then when she recommended coming in, Bill and I had to have a lot of hard talks around, like, all right, if we do this, like, we have to have parameters. Like, we get home and it's no office, no shop talk.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah. And during the day, we're both so busy and we run so hard, doing our individual roles, Bill practicing dentistry and then me managing the office and, thinking about marketing concepts and stuff, that we just don't see each other that much. Like, if it truly isn't like we hang out all day and then we just go home and hang out all night. Like, it is, it's a change because it is a lot more together time, but we just don't see each other that much. And then we try to schedule like brainstorming meetings between the two of us where we're like, okay, we're really going to sit down and talk about work tonight. Or, we both kind of keep pens and paper with us. If we have a great idea, we just write it down so that when we're having that like one-on-one time or our, time away from the office, that it's just not dominated with the dental office shop talk.
Nice. Well, because it's a very different approach than I think a lot of other offices would do, because we talk about having a weekly meeting with your office manager that's set, that's directed, that's, but for you guys being married, I'm sure that those lines can probably bleed into each other very often of when is our one-on-one meeting, because we see each other all the time. So do you guys have set one-on-one meetings as office manager and doctor, or do they kind of tend to be more sporadic? Because I'm very curious about this, because I think there's a lot of office managers that are spouses, or vice versa. It's this dynamic I see all the time, and it's not just the wife, because sometimes it's the wife's the dentist, and the husband's the office manager. So do you guys have a set time that's helped you guys, or what other things would you say have helped you set up for success? I love the no shop talk, and we have set times, but kind of give me a little bit more insight of how you guys do it, because I'm very intrigued by this.
Sure. We probably could be better about saying like, okay, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. is when we're going to talk about, like, how are we going to strategize around hiring and marketing and, all the different parts and pieces of the office. But truly, it is just like, okay, like, here's some great ideas, or we'll send each other emails, which sounds crazy, but it's like, hey, I was on my walk today and I thought about these 3 things. Like, what do you think about it? And then we always take it to our leadership meeting, and the team part of this is really where we try to grow, and it grows skill sets. So we set up a leadership team. I don't think this is any, rocket science kind of concepts here, but what we do is we set up a leadership team. So we have hygiene, our admin team, and dental assistants or assistant team leads. And we'll take these ideas to the group and get some ideas around how do we go mobilize. And so, like, I feel like Bill and I bring, or Dr. Bill and I bring ideas to our leadership team. And then, like, there's a little bit more buy-in when they have the ideas around how do we actually go implement. And then they kind of take it and run from there. I think that part is really a key to our success. We are a growing office. We have probably, we have 26, we're right on the cusp of 27 employees in our office, or team members. And so that piece of getting them involved has really changed how we run the office, because we can't do it all. And so that, like, leveraging like our idea brainstorming time into, bringing it to our team leads to say, hey guys, like, this is what we're thinking about. What do you think? Could we do it better? Could we do it different? How do we implement it? And then getting that plan written down and into action.
That's perfect. And I'm actually glad we talked about, because you don't have a small practice. You have a very big practice. And I think some of the the concerns or the issues that you would face would be much different than a smaller practice. And so I really love that idea that you guys have taken your ideas. And I don't think it's silly at all to email, because I think that that's brilliant. It keeps it, instead of it being in your guys' text messages, you deal with it when you're at work, and it would be just like a normal employee relationship. But then you take it to a leadership team. So it goes beyond just the spouse dynamic, and you guys really have incorporated your team. I do believe that when you can incorporate a team and you're able to have the team buy-in, that then they go out and they implement, they execute, that's when you have the most successful practices. Because if you have just the doctor and the office manager trying to run and push and drive this, it's really, really hard for them to execute. So I actually want to dive into this a little bit more of, tell me, you came in, you didn't have dental background. I mean, you're married to a dentist, so that helps definitely tremendously. But what were some of the lessons that you feel like you had to learn right away? And then also I want to hear some of your lessons or tidbits or tips that you would give, especially for these bigger practices, because we have a lot of people listening to this podcast that have these big practices, and the issues that you see in bigger practices are way different than they are in the smaller practices. So first of all, give me some things that you had to learn coming in as a no dental working office manager, and how you kind of overcame that, or what you did, or what you'd recommend to somebody.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
That's kind of a broad.
So much.
I bet. No, it's been about a year, right? You've been in there about a year? Yeah.
Yep. So okay. I came in May. I would say just first and foremost, it has been like the most humbling process. So I'd say any new office manager, like, just get ready for, take deep breaths. You're not going to learn it all at once. It's going to be okay. Some of the first things I learned really around just like team management and team leaders. And, I kind of had to, I came in and I didn't do anything immediately. I just learned. Like, okay, tell me what you do. Like, and I met with people. How do you do this? What's your job here? What other jobs do you do here? Because I found out in our office, we had a lot of informal leaders, or informal process even is probably a better word to say it. Mm-hmm. Like, to where it was like, okay, if Jeannie's gone for the day, nobody knows what Jeannie does. So nothing gets done. And I was like, all right, okay. Like,
and coming from corporate, yeah. I was just going to say, I bet corporate drove you nuts. Like, whoa.
I was like, wait a second. Okay. So that was one of the first things. I just did a lot of like listening and understanding, like seek to understand, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then the whole insurance game, holy moly, I still feel like that's like a weak point for me that I'm trying to learn and understand and manage. And, do you go in network? Do you go out of network? What, pay, that whole deal is just like a black hole, I feel like. And I just I'm spending time right now learning that piece and really talking to our provider reps with the different payers. Mm-hmm. And so that's a lesson learned.
Insurance is not for the weak of heart for anybody. Don't worry. You can be in it for 3 months to 75 years and you still hate insurance, and it's still this like black hole, like you said. So don't worry. You're right there with us.
Holy moly. That's a new ball game. But I'm getting there slowly.
Yeah, of course.
And then I'd say one of the other things that I think our office just needed, and it wasn't easy. This is not for the faint of heart either, but we needed organization. And so, it took me a while. It took me a solid 6 months to figure out kind of who in the office was like on board with where Bill's vision for the office is, and, try to understand like what other skill sets people bring to the table, and who everybody has skill. Obviously everybody has skills in dental, whether they're a hygienist or a front desk, we're answering the phones, or an assistant, but everybody else has all these skills that make them who they are. And, I think what I try to do is help them highlight I call them like their and skills, because it sounds silly, but
no, I like it.
We have one hygienist who is extraordinarily organized, and it took me a few months, a few weeks to figure out, like, okay, here's a project that, Erin could really go sink her teeth in, pull her into the team, and really set her up for success. And she helped us organize all of the new office, where things should go, how inventory should flow, because we have 2 hallways of hygiene and 1 hallway with the doctor's stuff, and then 1 main kind of supply closet. And so she got all that stuff labeled. They worked as a team. It was really great and allowed her to be a leader in the office in a different way than what she's been just providing, her service before. And so I think that one, just when I started to think about it that way, like, hey, finding what nugget does Tori bring to the table? Tori loves insurance. Like, she is in this to win it with the insurance thing. So I was like, let's leverage her there. Like, what are we doing? Yes, she's really great with patients and she's really great on the phone, but her passion is insurance. Like, let's highlight that for her. And when I started to figure out those pieces, it's when we got a good organization structure that really helped us have a smooth move and transition into this new office, and put a little bit different perspective on the work people were doing.
I like that a lot. So you brought up 3 pieces that I actually am super intrigued by. I love, did you say finding their and? So Kiera loves to do this and. Like, what is her and? Is that how you phrase that?
Yeah. What's the and job?
Yeah, I love that, because so when you said at the beginning, coming from corporate and there were really no systems, like what happens if this person leaves or what happens when this person leaves? What did you do with your corporate background? Because I feel so many people in dental, we've just been in dental, myself included. So I see what's been done in dental, and that's why I'm obsessed with consulting. And this podcast is, we bring so many people from so many different backgrounds, and we're able to share best ideas. So what were you able to do? Because a lot of people struggle with this. What did you bring from corporate to make it so there were better systems in your practice that you would say, yeah, this is something that was an easy, solid win that I was able to bring from my corporate background to help solve if somebody ends up leaving, what do we do? What were you able to do?
Yeah. So, I think it's a combo. In our office, we had this nebulous employee handbook.
Yes.
That nobody really followed.
Yep. That happens all the time. We feel great. We check it off the list. We got it. We did the operations manual and it sits in the shelf and nobody looks at it.
Exactly. So I think one of the biggest things that, corporate offers a lot of structure. And it's important for how those organizations manage. And, when there's so many people, and we're talking thousands and thousands of people, they have to have the, super structured processes that you really need to operate within. In the dental office world, we didn't have anything. And I was like, okay, that's probably the other extreme that is not positive. So I always say everybody has to play by the same rules, and we have to have the rules so that everybody knows how to play the game. And so getting that HR book, dusted off, up to snuff, updated, making sure that people knew hey, we're all going to abide by these. So if you don't like it, and then I use this all the time in my office, and I'm just going to say I straight up stole it from my corporate employer. It's Cerner Corporation.
I love it.
It's I straight up stole it. I call it oppose, propose. So if you have a problem with something in the office, that's okay, but I need you to bring me a solution. I don't want to just hear your problems.
I like that. The pose, propose, because I've always said 3 solutions, but I think pose, propose is it's a lot simpler and cleaner, and exactly.
Yeah.
I love that.
And people, they've started to kind of get around here. If they come in my office with a complaint, they know they have to have a solution. And we might not go with that solution, but at least I don't want to just hear hey, I don't want to just hear why this is not okay, So I think the HR structure piece, and then just, being consistent and holding people accountable. We're working through, I would call it broader scale systemizing the office, writing down all of our processes and stuff. And we're in the middle of that. So it's getting better, but it's still, we're finding things all the time that's like, okay, well, like this fell through the cracks because it was nobody's like stated job.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting away from everybody playing whack-a-mole to like, hey, like this is your job. Like you are ultimately responsible for it. But I'm not saying like, hey, Kiera, like you have to do this all the time. But if it doesn't get done, I'm going to come and ask you why it didn't get done.
Exactly. You're the one that's overseeing it to ensure it's done. So you have accountability points. It doesn't mean that that person solely has to take that job on. And I love that. That's something we talk about, and it's brilliant. And I think that that's how you've actually evolved your leadership team. You found their and jobs, what they do really well. But also when you were talking about the operations manual, this is so true. People have this, they get it done. And then what do you do with this? It's like, I feel like it's a thesis in, when people have to write their thesis and then they just stick it on their shelf. So you can see that the thesis is sitting there and we accomplished something great. But the reality is this should be for you. And so something we've just started doing for other offices, which it sounds like you're right on track on that and right in the same mindset, is make this, but then make it small. So have an onboarding packet that when people are hired, you give them the onboarding packet with everything you've worked hard on, but in a smaller condensed version for that person. Have the laminated pictures of tray setups actually in the operatories, in every single operatory, laminated so people can physically pull that out, set up your room exactly the same way every single time, instead of it being in this huge, massive book that nobody even really looks at. And I love what you said of when something falls through the cracks, realize, because you'll never, that's one thing that I think people don't understand is an operations manual, the handbook, the guidebook is never complete. It's an ever living, breathing document. And when you see it that way, that's how you become an exceptional practice. Because you're constantly looking to see, okay, this is where we are. We've baselined, we've covered everything that we know today. But then you evolve, you keep growing, and then it's okay, now today we now know that we missed this process. Beautiful. Let's cover this one and keep going, because as you fix and create systems, it allows for more growth and other areas that we would now need to build a new system because we've mastered other systems.
Totally. And one of the things that we're working with the team right now is, obviously we've had a lot of change, but we sort of had this mentality before of like, oh, I'll just remember, like, I know I need to do these things. And it's like, wait, guys, like nobody can remember every single thing that has to be done in a dental office in one day. Like it's so much. And so we're getting like checklists put together and like, here's the things that go on a tray. Here's the picture here. And so we're working through all that, but that's one of the epiphanies I think of the last like 2 weeks I've had is like, all right, like we are missing little things because it's just not written down anywhere. Mm-hmm. And it's not like a bad thing to write it down. Like we all make checklists and stuff. So
I like that.
That's what we're currently working on.
I like what you said of it's not a bad thing to write things down, because we go into offices and we'll implement end of day checklists. Like you said, it's impossible to remember. We're human beings. I give the example when I travel a lot. So you'd think I'd be a master at packing my suitcase. Well, I am pretty good, but I will tell you consistently I miss toothpaste, my toothbrush, and my razor. I'm like, those three things constantly are out of my suitcase, and I wear pants a lot because I'm a woolly mammoth otherwise. Like we just do these things because we're human beings, and we think we're being micromanaged, or as managers we feel if we give them a checklist, oh well, they're not autonomous. But the reality is, are we trying to work smarter or are we trying to work harder? People trying to remember every single thing. Why do we build routines in the morning? Why is it get out of bed, get in the shower? We all shower. I guarantee you every person has a routine of how they shower because it's easy.
For sure.
We don't forget to wash our ears or our hair because we've realized we missed those things. So we created a routine so we don't.
Totally.
And day in, day out life of a dental office is ever evolving. So having those checklists, having those processes. And I love another thing that you said that I want to highlight of everybody needs to know the rules of the game so they can play the game. Otherwise, we're just out there. Everyone's playing their own game. They're not playing the same game.
Totally.
Okay, Ashley, you are a worth of knowledge, and I'm loving this convo because you come with corporate, which I don't feel a lot of people see, which I love. We've talked about the operations manual. I want to know how you guys have structured your leadership team and what things you feel you've done that have helped you to be successful. I mean, you're not a small practice. You're not just doing a few things. You guys have I feel like you've had a massive evolution in the last year. You've grown exponentially, moved into a new building. I've done those things. They're not small tasks to do. So what do you feel, I think, and I personally think, correct me if I'm wrong, and you see something else, add something in, but I would guess that your leadership team has been a huge reason for the success of this evolution and this process and this growth.
Yeah. I think that, our practice was always like, everybody was afraid to say, oh, you're the office manager or you're the team leader of hygiene. So we have a very, very tenured team. I think our longest tenured associate or employee is 25, 26 years. Mm-hmm. And I don't think this is probably super uncommon amongst other offices, but so we've had a lot of people work together for a really long time.
Yes.
Basically. And everybody was afraid of like, oh, well, if I'm the manager, the boss, or the leader, then, they're going to look at me differently. And I've like babysat these people's kids. I've, watched them grow up. I've watched their kids get married or whatever. And I was like, wait a second, halt that train of thought. Like, we did a lot of work around what it means to be a leader versus a boss. And when we kind of framed it up that way for the three ladies that I chose to be team leaders, that I think helped a little bit, and it helped put some perspective around like, guys, like you're not mom, like these are not your babies. You're not. Mm-hmm. We're not here to micromanage. Like that doesn't work. We know that. Like we're here to say like, hey, when you have a problem or an idea or something, here's a channel to go help make sure that that's successful. And that kind of making that open and that statement of like, hey, look, like this is like, yes, no, you don't own this office, but you work here every day. You spend more hours here than you do with your family. And it's important to us that we run this as best as we can. And if you have some stake in that, you're going to also, help make it as best as it can be. And so just kind of like laying that out there for people. And that's a scary place to be as a business owner. I'm not going to lie.
For sure.
I was like, holy moly, what are we doing? But I think just like laying that framework, out for the team leaders to buy into that. And then the rest of the team, it's like, hey, these people are here to help make sure that you're successful and you have a voice at the table. Because, we do try to meet with everybody and we do, our reviews and all that, but you can't capture as much as you need to. You can't capture all the data from one person when you're meeting with 27 people, monthly is our goal. We're not there yet.
Hey, that's okay. That's all right. That's a lot of people to meet with. I understand.
Ooh, yeah. But then at least they know they have some other ears in the office that, can make a difference.
I love that a lot. Can you dive into that a little more of the leader versus boss? Like give a little more perspective on that mindset, because that, Ashley, you're diving into pieces that so many people struggle with. Like this is a massive struggle in offices of, I can't be their leader because they've been here way longer than I have been. Who am I to tell them what to do? So, yeah. So how did you foster that? Because the voice at the table, I love that. And I say, this is a channel. This is somebody that you're closer to. So you don't have to always go to the office manager. You have somebody who's there, but tell me a little more of how you fostered that culture and that mindset, because that is pivotal.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I think it all starts with, you have to have a strong team, and you have to trust your team. And that in itself is scary, just because you have to remember, like, nobody's going to do it exactly how you will, but you can't do everything yourself. Mm-hmm. And so, and I have to work both ends on this side. So like Dr. Bill, I'm like, hey, if so say we're tackling inventory and we set up this whole new inventory system. I was like, hey, what are 3 things in this project that you have to have completed? And he's like, okay, well, I want it to be digitized. So we have to have a scanner. I want it, to be able to have the least amount of, over order. And I never want to run out of supplies. So I want to walk that really fine line of having enough, but not too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so we're going to tell the team that's going to go do this, like, here's your 3 things. And so I take that kind of coaching, even with the team leaders. And I say, okay, Denise, you're our hygiene team lead. We're working on our perio program. What are 3 things that you have to have? What are the 3 things that you think are the most important when we're talking about perio? And she's like, well, you have to have your perio chart. We all need to be probing somewhere, and we all need, we all have to make the same diagnosis when we see, 5mm pockets of blood or whatever it is. And I was like, okay, that's how you're going to manage this. Everybody has a degree. Everybody has, training, advanced training in this particular case. Just make it known that those are the 3 things that you expect and see what happens. And it's scary. It's terrifying, but just laying those, getting your expectations, hey, these are the things that I really need as a part of this project, and then letting the team run with the other pieces. I'm amazed daily what our team comes up with in different areas all across the office. And I think, setting that stage of helping, it is truly helping them lead as opposed to helping them micromanage. But when you say hey, here's the 3 things that I want done, and I'm willing to pitch in and do the other things that you guys think are important too, and show that becomes, they are becoming leaders.
And I love that as the owners, you've given the structure. By you having to set 3 things of what you want, that forces you to condense and to consolidate and to streamline what you want, as opposed to this, well, just do organization, or just do the ordering, or just do perio. Well, that's very broad. There's nothing there. But here's the framework. These are the 3 things that I really, really want to see. And then from there, I do love that you've allowed your team to explore and to be creative, because although they might not do it exactly how you would do it, I found that when people are given creative control and they feel that they have ownership, and that's what you're developing. You're developing ownership mentality with these people, and then they get their teams on board. They will create things that you never ever would have imagined, that are far better than anything you could have come up with on your own, because you fostered these people to think like you, but to think in bigger, broader ways. And it makes your life easier. You don't have to figure out all the solutions. They can do it.
Yep, totally. And then I also think, I'm a big book reader, and I believe in, educating yourself as much as possible. But what I found is my team is very busy, and they might not like to read as much as I do, but I send them either nuggets of podcasts that I listen to, or TED Talks. And I'm like, if you don't listen to the whole thing, at least listen from minute 5 to 10. You've got 5 minutes. And just trying to push out some different mediums even, or I'll tell them hey guys, check this book out. I just finished it and it's really good, and it, it's got a lot of life lessons in it or whatever. And I think that's how I'm pretty sure, I think I've heard them repeat things that are in there. So I feel like that's working.
Well, I believe as we evolve as people, and as we are progressing as people, we find a greater happiness. And it's true. I didn't used to be a big book reader, but I will tell you, when I step into leadership and when I own my own businesses, I realize I have to develop myself as a person to fulfill a space that's far greater than who I used to be. Otherwise, I can't fill the space of who I need to be to lead. And so I've got to be developing myself to take on these bigger roles. So just real quick, what are your top 3 favorite books right now that you really just love, that have changed you? Or top 1 or 2, I don't care. Just give us a few.
Yeah. Well, so right now I am into Rachel Hollis and her
same.
Girl Watch Your Face. Like I was a holdout. I'm not gonna lie. I was a holdout on that one. And I was like, oh, finally, one of my girlfriends from college signed up for her like training class or whatever. And I was like, all right, like I'll give it a go. You know, Katie's pretty smart. I'll see what's up. And I'm like obsessed with that. Like I think she just has such a good way of like looking at business and, you know, obviously you and me too, both being business owners,
right?
And being women, I think it's a whole different ball game. Like I'm into that.
I feel like she's the most inspiring and empowering female leader, entrepreneur mindset. So whether you're an entrepreneur, but just empowering women to be your best self. I think that's why she resonates so well with the women.
Oh, totally. And then I'm a big podcaster too.
Okay.
So I'm super into How I Built This. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't. I'll have to check that one out.
Oh my goodness. It is, I can't remember the guy that interviews it off the top of my head right now, but he will interview different entrepreneurs. So he'll do like Sarah Blake from Spanx.
Uh-huh.
Or another good one was, what's that girl's name? From the Honest Company. I'm pretty sure she was on there. But they just like interview these people who are truly entrepreneurs who built these big, huge companies. And it's just fascinating to hear, you know, their life lessons or what they thought was really important. And, you know, you can always take pieces out of that. But those are probably my two big ones that I've been into lately now.
I love that. And I love what you said, because that's exactly what we've tried to do with the Dental A Team podcast. I know teams don't listen to long things. I know they're busy. And so as leaders, as dentists, as office managers, send pieces of these podcasts to your teams. Have certain people listen to them. They might not binge like you do, but if you can hook them on something that's super, super valuable that will strike a chord in them and make them think differently, you've hooked them to be lifelong learners. They'll go find other podcasts. They'll go find other TED Talks. They'll go start reading because they start to see themselves evolve and develop. So, Ashley, I think for somebody coming from no dental background to being able to run this massively successful practice with your husband, to the things you spoke today are truth that I feel you gave a different spin on. And I want to get you back on because we didn't even dive into marketing. And I think you could add a world of knowledge from a perspective that I don't have that I would love to do. But I think my big highlights that I'd love to recap at the end of this were, I love the pose. You can pose, but you must propose. I love that you also talked about the ownership mentality and the three things that you're expecting, and then let them go and foster that. And then I loved the and. Find their and you were you just observed. You were an observer and you watched to figure out what these people did really well and capitalized on their natural born inhibition. Like they are going after these things naturally, and that's what you went after, and then just foster that a little bit more to make them flourish. So those are my three big takeaways. I don't know if you have any other takeaways, but those are my three from today that I just absolutely loved sharing the morning with you and chatting with you. Is there anything else you would like to add in before we say goodbye?
Oh my goodness. No, I mean, I think those are my three focuses, as well. And, you know, thank you so much for having me on. Oh
my gosh, of course. Thank you. Guys, this is Ashley Keith. She is a phenomenal office manager. And I love that the reason I wanted her on the podcast was to show that you don't have to have a ton of dental experience to be an incredible office manager. You can be just you as a person, I believe is what, if you can develop yourself, you can do anything. You can literally do anything. And Ashley, you're one of my mentors. You're one of my heroes, and I can't wait to get you back on. I'm coming to see you in your office soon, and it's going to be a ton of fun. So thank you again for being on the podcast today. And everybody, please go back. I think this is an episode that is definitely one to share with your teams, share with your friends that are office managers, share with dentists. The things Ashley spoke today are things that I feel so many people miss, and she comes to it with very ease and simplicity. So thank you, Ashley, for being part of the Dental A Team, and I will chat with you next time.
All right. Thank you, Kiera.
Thanks. Have the best day. And Dental A Team listeners, we'll catch you next time on another episode of the Dental A Team podcast.
And that
wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.